Hello all and welcome to this hands-on lab. In our lab today, we will learn how to work with Amazon Q and S3. Before we continue further ahead, a couple of things to keep in mind. AWS services used in this lab can incur charges. Hence, ensure that you clean up all resources after completing this lab. Prerequisites for our lab today is knowledge of Amazon Q. Hence, if you do not know what this service is all about, please refer to this overview tutorial that I had created some time back. URL to the tutorial is mentioned right here at the bottom. I will also have it mentioned in the description of this video. Reference URLs. I have mentioned one single URL over here. This is for Amazon Q. I would definitely recommend that you visit this URL as it will provide more information about this particular service. Scenario for our lab today. In our lab today, we need to create a chat assistant to scan a S3 bucket that has documents in it and then answer end user questions using the chat assistant. So if all of you know what Amazon Q is all about, it is basically an enterprise chat assistant service. It's fully managed in nature. So what we are going to do is using Amazon Q, we will have to create a chat assistant. That chat assistant will scan an S3 bucket that has documents in it. And this can be like your PDFs, your document files. It could be your CSVs. It just depends upon what kind of documents you want to upload over here. And then we will ask the chat assistant some questions which are relevant to the documents that we have uploaded. And if Amazon Q is in full swing, then it should be able to answer our questions. So that's essentially the scenario for this lab. Step 1. You need to ensure that your user has access to Amazon Q and S3. Please ensure that these two policies are associated to your user, that is Amazon Q full access and S3 full access. This is to ensure that you do not face any hiccups while doing this particular lab. Step 2 is to create a S3 bucket and upload documents. So we'll create an S3 bucket. I've given a name over here. Of course, you can use whatever name that you like. You need to upload 5 or more documents of these types. Now, for this lab, I would recommend that you stick to document files or PDFs that has some content in it. And I'll show you some samples that I'm using. For example, if you have white papers or any other some kind of a document, so that you can question the chat assistant accordingly. And that way, it will also help you to kind of cross-check if the response is accurate or not. Once you've created your S3 bucket, please copy the name in a notepad. So let's get started. So this is my console right there. So I'm going to create a bucket over here. So I am in US East 1. And the name that I had suggested is my AQ app bucket. So let's see if this name is available. Hopefully this name is available. If not, then we will change it. My AQ app bucket. I'm going to leave all the other settings as default and click on create bucket. So since this name was available, I'm going to copy my S3 bucket name over here. So now what we will do is we will upload a few documents. So I have a bunch of AWS white papers over here. So I have approximately 9 of them. And I would suggest that you use something like that so that you can, question the chat assistant accordingly. So get some documents which has, some content in it, some meatier content so that it can answer some questions for you. So what we are going to do is we are going to upload all of these 9 white papers to our S3 bucket. So let me go back to S3 bucket. Click on S3 bucket, upload, add files. These are my white papers right here. Click on open and then click on upload. So it's uploading all of those 9 files. I mean, it's totally up to you. Try to have about at least a minimum of 5 files so that, you can figure out if it can mix and match the different sources, different files, and then respond to your question rather than just having one single source or one single file for each and every question. Because remember, the Amazon queue behind the scenes tailors your responses. So the generative component, which is part of RAG, that actually curates and tailors the response as per your authorization and access level, and then gives the response back to you. Now, in this case, of course, you have full access to the S3 bucket and you have full access to Amazon Queue. So you basically should not face any authorization issues, but at least you should be able to ask some questions where it can curate some responses and then, respond back to you. So all the files have been uploaded successfully. So we have basically completed step 2. Step 3. In step 3, we will create an Amazon Queue application. This is the name that I've suggested. And then we will also provide a new service role name. Again, this is the name I've suggested over here. Copy the application name in a notepad. So let us get started. So let us first go to Amazon Queue. So this is Amazon Queue right there. So click on Get Started. So it should take us to Amazon Queue Applications. So this is what the first step says, Amazon Queue Applications, Create Application. So click on Create Application. And now we have to give it an application name. So I'm saying the suggested name over here is My AQ App. So, but again, you can give whatever name that you like. And I'm just going to copy this name in a notepad. Again, we need to give a service role name as well. So I'm going to give it My AQ App role. So just go over here, remove this, and then say My AQ App hyphen role. I think that's the name. Okay, that's the name. Hopefully this name should be available. Again, let me just copy it in my notepad. Scroll further down and then click on Create. So I think this particular name already exists. So I'm going to give some other name. My AQ, my business Q business application, my AQ. Let me give this name if this name works. Okay, so I think that name works, so which is a good thing. So let me just copy the name over here. So this is the name that I have given. So we have basically completed step 3, and now it is currently propagating this particular IAM role. So let us just wait, and then it will take to step 2 where we need to select our retriever. So hopefully this should be done shortly. Okay, so it has successfully completed this step. Let's go to step 4. Again, we're going to select our retriever, and we are going to use the native retriever for S3. For index units, we are going to provision only 1 unit because we only have a handful of documents, and then click on Next. So native retriever, see, available data sources is S3. For the number of units for index provisioning, we are going to bring it down to 1, and then click on Next. So it's working now. So we have basically completed step 4. Step 5. In step 5, we need to select our data source. So remember, we've uploaded our documents in Amazon S3, so that's going to be our data source. This is going to be a data source name. Again, this is a suggested name. We are again going to create a service role over here. Then in a sync scope, you should choose your S3 bucket. And under a sync run schedule, you should choose run on demand and leave all the other values as default. And then finally click on add source, data source, and finish. At the end, ensure that you've copied your data source name in a notepad. So let us go step by step. So data sources, here is S3. So click on S3. So click on this particular plus sign. So now it's asking for a data source name. So the suggested name is my QA app DS. So let me give that name, my QA app DS. And I am going to copy that in my notepad. So we've completed this step. DPC is default. Then it is saying that let's under IAM choose create a new service role and give a service role name. So over here, choose create a new service role and then give a service role name. So my QA app service role. Again, you can give whatever name that you like. Right now, this is the name that I have suggested. So we have completed these 3 steps. Next is under sync scope. So sync scope, here we need to choose our bucket. So let's browse S3, find our bucket, choose. So we've completed this step. Then under sync run schedule, choose run on demand. So come down, sync mode is full, that is default. Sync run schedule, frequency run on demand. Okay, come down and everything else is good. So we've completed this step. We've left all other values as default. Then click on add data source. So click on add data source. So it's adding it. It seems some policy name is already existing. So let me see. Let me see if this policy name will work. Sorry, this role name, I guess. Yeah, this is a role name, service role name, not the policy name. Apologies. It is a service role name. So I copied that. Click on add data source. Okay, so that worked. So I'm going to just replace it with this particular name. Okay, so now it's propagating our IAM role. This will take about 30 seconds. So we have completed this particular step. So finally, we need to click on finish. So let it propagate the IAM role, the service role that we have created. So here it is. It's come back over here under data sources. We have selected a single data source. Of course, if you have multiple data sources, please go ahead and choose that. Like you may probably have Jira or SharePoint or maybe some other data source that you might want to use along with S3. But for this particular lab, we are only using S3. And finally, let's click on finish. So we have completed this particular step, and with that, we have completed step 5. Now, sync data source. So again, we will go to Amazon Q applications, click on our application, select a data source, and then click on sync now. Now, after you click on sync now, be a little patient. It takes a while. Remember that we have 9 documents. Depending upon the number of documents that you have uploaded, it may take certain amount of time, probably a few minutes. So I would not recommend that you upload more than 10 documents, but at least upload sizable documents so that you can ask questions and you can see whether it's retrieving answers from multiple documents or not. And then once we click on sync now, then we will observe the last sync time. and the document count. So here is our application. The application has been created successfully. So the first step is to go to Amazon Q applications and click on your application. So let's click on our application right here. And then if you come down, here is the data sources and it's saying select your data source. So we've selected our data source and then click on sync now. So let's click on sync now. So if you see, this is spinning and it has started. Hopefully it gives you a message also on the top that sync has started at so and so time. It may take a few minutes to a few hours, right? Depending upon multiple factors, right? Your network bandwidth, the number of documents, the size of documents, and a whole lot of other things. So just be patient. It's going to take some time, right? So right now it's 5:56 p.m. over here. So what you need to do is you need to observe this last sync time, so that will keep on updating. Also, you need to observe this document count, and this is currently in progress. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the recording right now. This will take a few minutes to finish. And once the sync has been done, then I will restart recording. So as you see, our sync is still going on at 6:03 p.m. over here. It was started, but if I scroll down, I will see that the number of documents is reached to 9, which is the total number of documents that we have uploaded. The sync time has not been refreshed yet, but I believe we should be good. Let me try and refresh this particular page now and see if the sync time updates. But even if the document count is accurate, that is the same count as the number of documents that we've uploaded, I believe we should be good. So let's see. It is still syncing. Okay. Okay, still syncing. I don't have the sync time yet. So I'm going to give it a few more minutes to see if the sync time gets updated. If not, then we can get started because it's got the right document count. So I'm going to stop the recording and then come back again. So finally, the sync has completed. As you can see, the last sync time over here is 6:10 p.m. today. The document count is 9. So it took about a solid 14 minutes to complete the sync, to create the index and the entire process. Okay, so be patient because depending upon your bandwidth and the number of documents and the size of documents, it does take a significant amount of time. So I started at 5:56 and it finished at 6:10. Okay, so we have basically completed this particular step. That is step 6. Step 7. Now we are going to preview the web experience. Remember, the intention is to now go and see if the chat assistant works. So we are going to go look at our application and then select our application and then click on preview web experience and then ask some relevant questions as per our uploaded documents. So let me go back to applications. This is our application. So I'm going to select our application and then click on preview web experience. So click on that. Right, so this is our web experience. It's again in a preview mode. I'm not going to deploy it for this lab, but if you want to go ahead and deploy it, you are more than welcome to do that. Now let us go and look at some of our white papers. So let me go to AWS overview. And what we will need to do is we will need to ask some, intelligent questions. So let us start with what is cloud computing? So just to ensure that I'm not copying any special characters and confusing Amazon Q. Okay, so let us see if we can answer this question. What is cloud computing? It's taking a while, so it's curating a response. And there's a response. So cloud computing is the on-demand delivery of compute power. And there it is. There is our response coming from here. And this is AWS overview. So let us go back over here and look at the sources. And it's saying that it got this response from AWS overview.pdf, which is correct. Now let us go and look at a couple of other uh, white papers that I have here. For example, this is on which one? This is AWS architecting for cloud best practices. So let's see if we can find something over here. Design principles. Okay, so let us see if we can ask what are the different types of what are the two ways to scale an IT architecture? So let us see if it can answer that question. What are the two ways to scale an IT architecture? Let's see what response comes back. Is still looking. So scaling vertically and scaling horizontally. And the sources is saying cloud best practices. Okay. Now let us ask something else, right? So let us ask, maybe let me go back to the index over here and maybe ask for something within scaling. Okay, let us ask what is vertical scaling. So we're searching for the response again, and it takes place through an increase of specification. Okay, and again, it's come from cloud best practices. Now, let me open up another white paper, storage services, and then see what if we can find some patterns over here. So let's see usage patterns. Okay. Let me ask what are the different storage, S3 storage classes or something like that, right? What are the different S3 storage classes? Let's see if it can answer this question. Now, if there is something similar about this question in another document as well, then it should curate the response. So it's basically given me these three. And again, this was in a single particular document, like one single document, right? Now we can again scroll down and look at some other sections, right? Now let me ask a different type of questions, right? So scalability and elasticity. So can you tell me about S3 scalability? Let me just ask you, scalability. Let's see what response it curates this time. So it's talking about design very high level of automatic scalability. So it is coming from here if you see scalability and elasticity. Right, so it's taking these responses from these document sources and then giving it to you. It's asking you whether it was a good response If you want, you can even copy the response as well. Now, depending upon the question, if there are multiple sources, it may also curate from multiple sources, right? So you just have to ask the questions accordingly. I'm not sure if I have anything that will particularly overlap. So let's go to DDoS and try something from DDoS over here, right? So what do we have? We have this DDoS attack, right? So let's go and check about DDoS attack. So let us ask what is a DDoS attack? So let's see if it can answer this question. So again, it answered that particular question from the DDoS white paper. Let me go back. And again, if we scroll down, look at some other things. Now, let me ask, maybe a question. Explain S3 and DDoS. Right? So let's see if we can answer this question. For this, it will have to hopefully combine a couple of documents and then curate a response. And that's the intention over here. We want to see if it can truly, curate and give us a tailor made response. Okay, so it seems like it got this response from multiple different sources. So it's talking about S3 over the durability, then it's talking about the DDoS attack and the DDoS attack types, SY and flood attacks. It's talking about WAF and CloudFront, Shield. So it's used multiple different sources to create this particular response. If you see, there are three sources that it has used, again, to curate this particular response. And that's exactly what we were looking for. We wanted to see if it can curate a response from different sources. So now let me try one more if I can find something. Application layers. Okay. Let's ask for something. Let's ask for an HTTP flood attack. HTTP. Okay, let's ask this. Are HTTP flood attacks lethal? Let's see if it can answer this question. So we know that there is one document that definitely talks about HTTP flood attacks. So let's see if it can curate this response. So it seems I found multiple potential answers from your data sources regarding HTTP flood attacks. According to the most relevant documentation, it's an attempt to overload specific functions of an application to make them unavailable and extremely unresponsive to legitimate users, sometimes with very low request volumes that are difficult to detect and mitigate. Okay, so that is a good thing. So therefore, while not explicitly stated, HTTP floods can have lethal effects on applications under attack. Wow, this is impressive. I mean, I just asked whether it can be lethal or not, but the answer is correct. If we come over here, it's talking about HTTP flood attack from here, and that's where it's got all of this information that it is talking about, right? So it's talking from DDoS. Well, it got this most of the information from DDoS white paper, but if you look at it, the response is in a conversational manner. So if you see, it's curated the entire response, and because I use certain words in my question, like, is this attack a lethal attack or not? Hence, it is also, after telling me what HTTP flood attack is all about and what it does, at the end, it is also concluding and telling me that yes, this particular attack can have some lethal effects. This is truly impressive. So, guys, I hope that this lab was helpful. Do play around with Q. It is currently in a preview mode, but you can still, goof around with it, see if it's working. And most importantly, figure out maybe some real time use cases in your organization. Let's say if you have a document repository or you have a KMS and you don't want to actually use a KMS, you can pretty much, connect your doc repository whether on a SharePoint site or wherever it may be, and connect that to Amazon Q. And there you go, you can ask all different kinds of questions. If you have junior developers or folks who just want to learn something about a specific topic, it can answer most of your questions. But don't ask some stupid questions, because that's where it kind of, just basically is just going to come and tell you, I'm sorry, I don't understand your question. But if you ask a question which is real, just like you saw, I asked this question about HTTP flood attacks and whether they're lethal or not, it gives a decent response. So it's truly impressive. That's it from me, guys. Hope this is helpful. And I will see you shortly in some other video. Till then, take care. Bye bye.